Up and going. Hey, Patricia. Awesome. So you can hear me okay? All right. I should be live on YouTube and on Facebook. Facebook was giving me a problem, but I think we've got that solved. All right. Good evening. Good evening. All right. From Georgia. Awesome. Awesome. So we'll give it just a minute to let some folks get on. Hey, Tisa. Hey there. Okay. I'm so glad to be back with you guys tonight. I have a what I think is a great lesson on ceramics. We're going to do a watercolor background. We're going to do flowers with a couple of different brushes to give you some options in case maybe you don't have but one of those brushes. You can do them all that way, or you may want to try them different ways. And we've got some new brushes out there also. If you're not signed up for our emails, you can go to the website, which is listed at the bottom of my screen here, and go to the bottom and just sign up for the newsletters so that you get any emails about product announcements or lives or whatever happens to be going on. I am on YouTube as well, Marie. Yes, yes, I am. Good evening, Mary. So yeah, on both of them. We should be on both. Nancy, Rose, Marie, and Teresa on YouTube. Good evening, everyone. All right. So what I'm doing tonight is on ceramics. It could be used if you do acrylics, if you do the glass, you could still do some form of this. And I can try to do some of those different variable, techniques later down the line. I try to, jump from ceramics to glass and then do brush strokes in between to alternate, to hit all the different products that we have on the website. Okay. Um, so welcome everyone. It's hot here in Texas. I don't know where you guys are at, but it's miserable. We're supposed to be in the hundreds the next few days. So anyway, all right. I want to tell you about some business before we get started. Okay, so I have a couple of shows coming up. These are Fired Arts shows. We have one in Missouri, which is in West Plains, Missouri, which is east of Branson. I've never been there before, but that's a new show. So if you're in that general area and would like to join me, I'm doing a class each day. Thursday is the rooster, Friday is the whimsical chickens, and then Saturday is the heart. So just give me a call, give me an email, tell me you want to sign up for those if you would like to do that and come and join me. And then the Fired Arts Expo up in Wisconsin that we've done for a couple of years. I have 4 classes there. The schedule is there. I also will post these schedules on Facebook later on this evening. And to sign up for that show, you need to go to thefiredartsexpo.com and Mike Harbridge. This is the website. When you go to it, you'll go to Wisconsin shows, and it's got the different projects that he has listed there, and there's 2 pages of them. Some of the teachers have not got their information complete. Mike has asked that you try to wait till the end of the week to sign up for things, but at least you've got the schedule and you can start making plans. If you sign up for something and you decide to change later, there's going to be a fee to change it. So try to wait till Friday or Saturday for that one, and hopefully everything will work out for you. Okay. All right. So here is the Missouri show, which is first. This is the middle of July. Information about it. Mike Harbridge will be there with me. Bob Marini will be there from Mako teaching, and Brenda Poole will be teaching. And so there's a listing of different people there. So come out, support your vendors, and come by and say hi. We'll get to meet each other. Okay. Also, I sent out an email. If you're on the email newsletter, we have new brushes, new sets. We've got 3 new sizes of mops. We've got some liners. So these, the blue handle ones are Kolinsky synthetic. So they kind of act like a Kolinsky, which is the highest grade of a brush you can get, and a natural hair brush. And so this is it's got some Kolinsky, some synthetic hair. So it's a very reasonably priced brush for whichever. So the liners I sell separately, but the others we sell as sets. And the sets do come in a nice tube. which is kind of nice to keep your brushes in, to store them or to travel with. Okay. So check out those two shows, Wisconsin and Missouri, and support your teachers and vendors. Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? Hey, Miss Ann Parcher. Do I have any angles yet? I do have some angle brushes. There's one in that kit. These work great with acrylics. Also, they're a better brush than some out there on the market because they do have some natural hair with them, so they're going to hold a lot more product. And I'm going to be doing some demos. I'll record some short videos on all those different sets and brushes so that you'll have those as a resource later. Okay. All right, so tonight's lesson, let me go overhead real quick. And don't forget, on my blog, there is a PDF that I put out there for you. It's got the photo, all the colors, the brushes used, and then I give you the pattern. So even if you don't do ceramics and you want to use the pattern for your acrylics or for your glass, whatever, it's out there, it's free. The video is also on that page. Is everybody familiar with the website and how to get to the blog? Just want to make sure. Let me just quickly jump over there and show you real quick. So here's the website. So at the top in the blue bar, you see blog, and you can go to the ceramic or the glass. So if you click on ceramic, which is what we're doing tonight, it'll show you all of the different things that I've done over time. You just click on that photo. It takes you to the page. Here is your PDF. It's highlighted in blue. I've also linked the brushes. So if you hover over the brushes, it'll guide you in getting to that page to order brushes. And there's your video. So the video is always there with the pattern. So even if you want to share it with someone, they can find all the information there. Okay. Hopefully that makes it easy. I think that is working really well for everyone. Okay. All right. So that is the blog. So be sure and print that out. I've told you about the shows, the two different shows, and the Missouri show, all of that. So we've got that taken care of. This is one of those pieces that I did a few weeks back. Really cool project using the color concentrates, also doing brush strokes. Pattern is out there, so check that one out. And then if you guys have seen anything I've posted lately, this will be a live class. I will put out schedules probably tomorrow. I'll put those out so you can save them and save the date if you're interested in this glass piece. I've also taped the little girl that I did with the quill pen and the Marini, so that will be another live class also. So hopefully those are things that might interest you. And here's those tubes. I said those sets. So the 205, these all come in a nice tube and they're individually wrapped. So you'll take that off and then you can just store them in those tubes. Okay. And here's that peacock. Isn't that the coolest thing? A lot of dollars wrapped up in this Marini, and all the different pieces and stuff are not cheap, but this is one that I did at the glass show. I started it and showed the different steps, and then Miss Tabitha Burrell showed her Marini and how to attach it and everything. So that was kind of cool to collaborate with her on a piece. So here's the piece that we're going to do tonight. The video, I have pre-taped it so that I can sit here and answer your questions as you ask them. It's about an hour long, and I've shortened it as much as I could. Okay. Let's see. I want to answer a question. I wish you were doing these type of flowers at Wisconsin. Well, you know, Stacy's said, wished I was doing this type of flower. I can demo if I get a free minute, but I did the red flowers 2 years ago, and they're very similar. I'm just doing different techniques on these to show you different ways to accomplish them. That peacock looks expensive. It is because of all the different pieces. I mean, it's amazing how that starts to add up. Because when you get a little bag of leaves or whatever, I mean, it's pricey. You can go look at Tabitha's Glass Emporium.com, I believe it is, or just search for Tabitha Burrell, and I think I've linked her on my post. And that way you can just go check it out and see how expensive that is. Okay. All right. Hi, Cindy Richardson. Hey, Leanne. I'm going to start the video. And then just feel free to ask questions on Facebook or YouTube, and I will answer those. Okay. All right, here we go. And you let me know if you can't hear it. Okay. Working on is a bisque, 04 bisque. This is a box and lid. And I transferred my pattern onto tissue paper, and now I'm transferring it to the piece. I transferred it with the pencil, so I laid the pattern underneath the tissue paper, used the pencil to trace over the lines. And then now I'm using the Statler Tri-Plus fine liners and just go over your lines slowly, and it will bleed through the tissue. If you go too fast, sometimes it doesn't have a chance to bleed. So just double check yourself. You can always come back and add any lines that you feel you need. But as long as you've got a little bit of the pattern there, that's all that you're looking for. Okay. I started this with the blue pen. The pen went dry, so I changed over to the red. So this could be done. I'm doing it on 04 earthenware. This happens to be a piece by Duncan. Duncan's 04 bisque, if I remember correctly. Yes, Duncan. Okay. So I'm going to put the bottom out of the way. Okay, so I've got a palette here, bubble palette. Got me some paper towels or shop towels. I've got sumi brushes out. We have the sumi brushes available in 4 sizes. And here those are. They can be found on the website. All you have to do is type in sumi, S-U-M-I, in the search bar, and it'll bring up anything that has sumi attached to it or used in it. Okay. Also got some other brushes here that are a Klinsky synthetic blend. I've got some square shakers, some rounds, and some liners, and I've also got mops. And I also kept the cap off of some of my brushes. I may do something with the background technique on that. So what I'm thinking is just some yellows and greens, maybe blues in the background. 122 lemon peel. These are color concentrates, which are translucent or transparent underglazes. Always shake them before you dispense them. The more you shake or agitate, mix them, they liquefy. Put a little bit of that color out. I'm also going to be using the gloss medium, the CSP01 NT Clear, that I'm going to mix 50-50 with. I'm going to use some 161 green leaf. About empty. Also have some water in a bottle that I'm going to fill a well next to those so that I can create more of a wash. I like to mix with the handle of my brush so that I don't waste my product. Okay, so I'm going to use the medium sumi brush. I'm going to wet it, and then I'm going to start with my lighter color, which is my yellow, and I'm going to grab 2 scoops, mix it up really, really well. Constantly stirring that because your color is heavier than water. And then I'm just going to kind of mush, I call it, where I'm constantly bouncing and moving that brush around. we used a watercolor marker or water-based marker to transfer. So if your brush gets on that with this color, it can cause that to bleed or slightly soften and go away. So keep an eye on that so that you don't totally lose your pattern. You could do a background all over and then come back and transfer if you wanted. I like to just avoid my design. It wouldn't matter if you got this on the leaves, but I wouldn't get it on the flowers depending on what color you're going to do on your flowers. So here I'm just on the tip of the brush, so it kind of puddles into that area. Constantly stirring that mix. So just continue till you have the background filled in. You could do this on the bottom of the box also, or you can always glaze it with a color. Okay. If I have an area that is darker, I can come back with just water on my brush and soften. There seems to be something on this bisque that doesn't want to accept color. Not sure what that is. All right, so then I'm going to do the same with the green. Now it's a darker color, so I'm going to start with one brush load and then kind of look at it. And I don't necessarily need this everywhere, but I can kind of just randomly add that. Now I've got a little dot of green, so I'm going to get a different brush and water and just swish that off. Constantly stir that up. You could have left areas open and just came back and added this in those areas. It's really up to you. Okay, so once again, If you have a harsh line, you can come back and just soften that with water in your brush. You always come back with some yellow and darken or deepen. Don't forget to keep it stirred up. If you want it a little bit stronger in some areas. But that is how to do a watercolor background. So we added the gloss medium to the colors. So the word medium is an extender and opener. So that's going to keep the product open longer and allow you to manipulate it and move it around. If you had just the pure color, which is pigment in a gel base, it's going to grab to the bisque and it's going to be harder to move and manipulate it. The gloss medium just gives you more open time and allows you to work with it a little longer. So do you have to use it? No. If you work fast enough, you can do it just without it. I never know when I'm going to get interrupted or anything, so I like to definitely use it. Since I've got a bunch of this left, I'm going to wait on the bottom. I'll probably end up mushing it on at least the inside, but we'll see. Okay, so we need to decide on what color of flowers that we want. I know I tend to do a lot of blues. Let's do some 112 candy apple red. I also am going to use some 602 white, which is the color strip. These are the opaque colors, and your concentrates are your translucent or transparent colors. So maybe some reds, some orange, the 116 Florida orange. We'll start with that. Still may throw some blue in there. Okay. Again, shake your colors. I am not going to add any medium to the flower colors. There's my white opaque. This is the Florida orange. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the mops. We've got the size 4 and the size 6 here. These are newer ones at this time. If you're watching this in June of 2024. So natural hair, very soft, but it also will make a nice soft look. And so depending on the size petal, you may want the smaller one. And remember, your pattern is just a guide. You don't have to completely stick with that, okay? So I'm going to wet the brush. I'm going to blot it out on a paper towel to remove the excess water. I'm going to fully load. So I'm going to saturate it with that opaque white, but I'm dragging it off the edge of the paint well to get rid of most of it. And then I'm going to tip into that red. I want to do the back petals first. So I'm going to do this one here. I'm going to just press, pull, and lift. So I'm going to go grab white again, red on the tip, press, and lift. So it kind of streaks those colors through each other. I think I've got enough white on. I'm just going to retip And I'm overlapping these strokes. So that you can get a variegation. So press, pull and lift. Press, and the more pressure you put down, the larger the brush stroke is. So a brush stroke is a combination of color, pressure, and motion. So we're applying 2 colors. This is a little back one there I should have done first. And then the front one. So if I don't keep adding white, it's just going to be more red. Grab a little bit of white. Okay. Now I need let's do this bud here. See, there's red that's continued to go up the brush. So you're going to see possibly more of that. So see, I tipped in the red, so there's more on that side than there is on this side. That can make a difference also. And then I'm going to switch over to that smaller number 4 mop, fully load. And actually, I'm going to go down here and do this one. Constantly reloading. Okay, I'm going to go over here and do this one. So you could do the same thing with the orange ones, or let's try a different way. Let's take some of the clean white in the small brush, and I'm just going to block in or base coat the petal. So what this does is it just adds a coat on there that the bisque will not grab my color. I have a little more time to do more with it if it's just on top of a base coat versus the bare bisque. And do this one here. All right, so then I'm going to put the white on, fully load, and I'm going to tip into the orange generously. And now I'm going to pull that down. just kind of like flicking it. It's going to be more variegated. So it just depends on how light or how dark you want those petals. Constantly grabbing. You'll know when you need white. Remember, what goes on the brush last comes off first. So the orange is going on last. Okay, let's do this underneath side one first. And then we'll hit this little more of a turn back. Now, you can take just a clean brush and water and push color off of an area that you don't want it. Push it back, tell it to get back inside the fence or back inside the petal where you don't want it. Okay, now I'm going to use 114 Coral. This is a new, excuse me, a new mix. The lot number is 0524. We had a pigment change and I haven't done any pieces with this, so I'm going to put it on this piece and test it. Okay, so what I want to do is, I think I want these white, but I want the coral down towards the center. So I'm going to take the medium sumi brush. I'm going to water load it. Okay, so water load it, drag off, and I'm turning the brush as I'm dragging. Turn it over, drag, turn it over, drag. So that removes the excess water and gets me to a nice point. So every time I load, I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to tip into the coral, fairly generous, and I'm going to tuck that near the center. Sit it down, mush, 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 walk it to the right and walk it to the left. Okay, I'm going to rinse, drag off to a point, tip into that color generously, and do that a little heavier. Okay, so I'm just adding that kind of in a V shape. So it's a white flower basically with that coral color near the center. You could do this with all of them if you didn't want the more solid look. Absolutely. Maybe you wanted it real watercolory. So as I'm going back and forth, I'm starting in the middle with the color and walking it to the right and walking it to the left. That's going to give me a more even color balance. Because if I start over on one side and go across, I have less product on my brush. So this allows it to dispense the color evenly across that area that I'm working. All right, so we have a petal behind here. Probably should have switched to the smaller brush, but the larger the brush you use, the softer the look you're going to get. Okay, and we'll come down here and do this one. set it down, mush, mush, mush. Walk it to the right and walk it to the left. I am going to do the side camera for just a second so you can see. Okay, so I'm pressing down. Most of the bristles are down. Okay, set it down, mush, mush, mush. Walk it to the right, walk it to the left. So the color is bleeding back to the water that's on the brush. Water load, drag off to a point, tip. I'm going to go back here and do this one. And do this one. Okay. All right. So that kind of gives you a totally different look to it. Okay. So now we have some leaves. I think I just want a very thin coat on the leaves. So I'm going to grab, I have a 6 and an 8 round here. Let me just do it with water to start with. So if I take, so that 8 should work nicely. So what I'm going to do is use what I have here, which is the 161 mixed with the gloss medium. Fully load that brush. Okay. And I am going to go back to the side camera. So let's do, this is from the top and from the side. Okay. So I'm going to start near the stem, press down, pull, and lift out to a point. So start on a point, pressure, pull, and lift. Press, pull, and lift. This was a larger one here, so you can add 2 strokes to get that one covered. So remember the amount of pressure, color, pressure, and motion is your brush stroke. We can come back and add some darker green on this, but I wanted you to be able to see the amount of pressure that I'm putting down. I'm up on the tip of the brush, and when you press down about halfway and then let it come out to a point. I'm using my pinky to kind of stabilize myself. And you notice that you have heavier because of the amount of pressure you're putting down. So you're going to get different tones in that leaf anyway. Okay, and I like to try to pull my strokes towards me. I feel like I have more control. Here's another large one, so let's do 2 strokes on that one. So where those strokes overlap, you're going to get a different color because it's a buildup or heavier application. I'm out of color. I don't want to have to mix anymore. All right. Okay. So let's go back to overhead. All right. So you can see all those. And there's different variations because remember when you press down, sometimes it squishes out to the side of your brush. You could go back and put a second coat if you wanted them darker. When you're doing a design, let me rinse this brush. This doesn't really have an up or down to it. But no, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, when you're doing a design, you should have 3 levels of interest. So your background is one, your flowers are your focal point, so your leaves are a secondary. So you don't necessarily want that to be overwhelming in the whole design. I'm going to put a little bit more of that green out. And then I'm going to go to a darker green, which is Laurel 162, which is extremely dark. You don't need very much of it at all. And I am going to go ahead and add that gloss medium. So we can do one of two things. We can come back and we can shade the semi shade near the bottom, or we can just use a liner brush and just stroke on for like a turn back. So I've got different liners here. I've got a 5-aught, a 10-aught, and then I have a 0. The 0 is going to be larger, so I think I'll use that. It's a new brush, so I'm going to rinse the sizing out of it. So I could load with that light, and then I can just kind of drag through or tip in that dark, and maybe come in and just give one side of those. Just remember that dark green is extremely dark. Press, pull, and lift. We can also use that combination for like our stems and veining. And maybe I want the dark along this side. So it can act like a turn back if you want. Constantly grabbing. Go slow so that you have control over that. So just a totally different look. You can even have that on 2 sides if you wanted it. Okay, so let's do that side view again so that you can, I like for you to be able to see the amount of pressure. So we do have that bud there. So I'm standing upright, but I'm slightly leaning back on the handle. That one again. And then maybe I want that darker on that side. And then this one here comes off of that. Okay, so you can kind of see the amount of pressure. I'm still anchoring with my pinky. And press, pull, lift, 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 lift to a point. Okay, so take your time with it so that you can see where you're going. You can see that it just adds some interest to those so they're not just plain. Okay. This was that bigger one. So add your center vein, and then you can add, whether you're going on top of what you've got or right beside, either way works. I'm going to go down this side this time. So it's just another way to do a leaf. If you're trying to make yours look different than someone else's, you know, just with the solid. Maybe you haven't ever done any brush strokes. This is just a liner, so it's not that difficult. You can use a shorter liner if you find that the long ones are more intimidating. Now we've got one here to this. Okay, I'm not going to do the calyx yet because I want to show you something else. Calyx is the green, like little things that hold all the petals together. Okay, so I want to take the rake or the comb brush, the 2550, this happens to be the 1/4 inch, and I'm going to grab that coral that we had before. Okay, so I'm grabbing the coral and then I'm coming over here to the middle and I'm kind of shimmying it back and forth so that you have little hairy, I think you can see it there, where it's separated. And then what I want to do is use that to create more shading. I'm just going to go back into that and pull some fine lines, like veining. You may have to, like I'm tilting the brush so that I can get in that tight space, but I'm also making sure that I'm staying with the curve of the petal. Okay, so let's go over here and do this one. So this may or may not be your thing. You don't have to. You can always stop at any point. It's just another way to add some detail. So every time I come back over to the palette, kind of squishing it down and letting that fan out, it's removing some of the product and just getting it on the tips of the hair. And I'm just standing up on the tippy toes. I'm not really putting any real pressure down. It's just dragging that brush and making fine lines. You could do it with a liner brush also. It would take you longer. It's just a quicker way of doing it. So it's up to you. You could even pull some of these in from the outside of the petal if you wanted. We can also go into like the red and pull some in on the orange. So if I grab some of that red and then do the same thing, shimmy it back and forth so you have little fuzzy lines. Let's come a little bit closer. So I can come in here and just add those fine lines. And like I said, you can always do this with a liner brush. You don't have to use the comb or rake. It's just if you have the brush for another technique, you might as well try it on this. Try it on paper first if you're unsure, or a, you know, old piece, broken piece, whatever, and kind of test the waters to see if you like. You can be on the chisel edge of that and bring in fine lines also, as if it were a liner, but you're just getting that fuzzy look to it. So that just adds another level of shading. Maybe you're not good with a liner brush and doing these fine lines. This is just another way of doing it. And you're not going to know till you try it. You could do the same thing on the red if you wanted. I don't think it's going to show up, so I'm not going to do it on those. Okay. Once you have all that in, say you had more white showing and less of the red, then you could do that. Or maybe you want to pull, you could pull some in from the outside in. You can also take the stubby brush and add that red. And then I'm going to kind of wipe some of it off on my palette. And you can use that to even, if you didn't have the rake or the comb. So it's almost like you're dry brushing with underglazes. And you can see how that adds. That's another way you could do that. And I'm just going over and blotting a little bit of that off so it's not so wet. So I'm only going to do that one. And then we can see the difference after it's fired. All right, so let's make sure our centers are clean. And this one I've got a spot back there that I want to put a little bit more of that green wash background. Okay. All right, so then with the liner brush to do those Kalic, go into that. I'm sure you can see that. The lighter green, and then tip into that darker green. And you just want to do a press, pull, and lift. The dark green is very strong. So it doesn't take much of it at all. You can even have one of those kind of falling off. on this red. Okay, let's go back. Okay. So that's what holds the flower petals together. All right. So then we need those center areas. And we can do, let's use the smaller of the mop. So this is the number 4. And I'm going to grab some of the yellow that we used to begin with. Load that in the brush. And then I'm just going to stipple it on with that. Okay. When you stipple on, you're getting highs and lows, so you're getting light and dark of that color. This is just a partial. You can add a little bit of the green off to one side. So I'm going to grab that 161. I'm going to kind of stipple him out so that I've got like a bad hair day, I call it, so that it's kind of fuzzy. You could add some brown if you wanted to it. I'm going to try to just limit the color palette to something simple. All right. So let's wipe out our middle. Try that. All right, so all we really need to do is detail this at this point. Use your favorite liner brush, the 3600. Size 2 is nice. This happens to be a 10-aught in the Kolinsky synthetic longer liner, although it's still just about a half an inch. I'm going to use the 101 Cobalt Black. Shake. I like to put it in the middle so that I can thin it. So I'm just getting water on my brush, slightly thin one corner. Load that brush. Okay. Use your pinky. So if you do thick and thin lines, it kind of adds some interest. You can also come back and add more fine lines with just the liner. And then I like to go in and add little, I call them tick marks, where you're just touching. I'm going to get these it away so that I can get my hand down here where I need it. So I lightly outline that stem off to one side, and then you can do the same thing to that side. So it completely changes the look of it. And then if I want to pull in some detail lines from the outside of that petal, I can do that by pulling down. I call it like making a little L shape. And it looks so much different than if you were to take an outline and then pull the line in, because that is, it's too stark. I mean, it's, so if you had your petal here and you just did that, and now you say, oh, I want to come back and add some little lines here. Well, it looks just like you did that. So if you come around and pull in as you're working, it makes a smoother look to that. It makes it look a little more natural. You don't have to outline if you didn't want to. And then on these calyx, usually one side. So thick and thin. Okay, so then around the center, you can you can do a wavy line, which I do a lot of times, and then I'll come back and add some dots. And the reason I do thick and thin, because if I accidentally get one that's thick, if you go back and do this thick and thin, then your eye is not drawn to that one that you messed up on, which I think is kind of nice. If you need to, you could transfer your pattern back on, or you can kind of look at the pattern. Okay, you can take that watercolor marker and you can say, okay, this one comes here, and I'm just making a little dot. And you need to follow your stroke work also. If it doesn't look like the stroke, you may have to adjust the line. See, this one's a little bit lower, and then that one is like that. I think the rest of them we can pretty much. So I'm just tapping just enough that you can see the lines. I think the rest of them were good. This is that one that kind of goes up. Okay. It's always a good idea to have that handy just in case you need it. Doesn't have to be exact. I find it easier constantly than that as you're going, your black. I find it easier to do a hit and miss. That way I don't have to be perfect. make these lines different lengths. So you can shape the petal with those detail lines around the outside. When you pull in, it gives you the illusion that there's a ripple in that petal, which is kind of. This is the back side of that petal, so there's not going to be any of those fine lines, kind of like we did up here on this one. All right. So there you go. Like I said, if I guess you could pull some fine black, just don't put the little tops on them, because that's like the pollen. And I'll leave these two alone so you can see the difference. All right, so I'm going to sign it. Okay. All right, I hope you like the project. Give it a try. A little bit different way of doing leaves, petals, just to give you some other ideas and ways to do them. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe to my YouTube if you're not subscribed. Okay, guys, back to me. I know that was a long one, but I showed you quite a few different things in it, so hopefully you can use some of that on your pieces. Um, and it gives you a way to do a petal different ways, different leaf than I've done before. So switch it up, change it up. I'm trying to, find different things that you guys can use in your creations. Okay. So I'm going to randomly go back through, so I don't want to do it on video, but I'm going to give away two liners, two of the new liners. So I'm going to give away let me look at the size of this one, a 10-aught and a 0. So one is a shorter, one's long, one's more of a script liner. Script liner, let me go to the overhead. Um, the script liner means it is longer in hairs. You can't see that as well. I think you can see it there. So this one is like 3/4 of an inch. This one's a half. So you get your choice of either one of those. So I'll pick one winner from YouTube, one from Facebook, and then I will post them on Facebook who the winner is. Okay. All right. So let me go back to me. I was trying to read some of the comments. So You liked it. So it wasn't too long. I'm trying to pre-record so that I can answer your questions. I can put links in there. I don't have to have someone else with me and take up like Jenny's time. Um, she's got other things that she needs to do. Next week, it's going to be Wednesday night. I can't do Tuesday. I'm going to take my mom home. So it'll be on Wednesday night. It'll be at 7:30, so it shouldn't conflict with ClayShare or anything when they do their Wednesday nights. So I will post, and it's glass next week anyway. So it won't affect the clay people. So I hope you'll join me. And like I said, be sure, and if you're not on YouTube, subscribe, like, share, and I will pick a couple of winners and put them on Facebook. Thanks for joining me tonight, and happy painting, everyone. Take care.